Welcome back to Potentials Podcast, where hidden science meets soul remembrance. In this episode, we journey into the rich fungal web beneath our feet and the vibrational ether beyond our sight. I'm joined by the brilliant and heart-centered Amber as we explore the profound connection between the Mycelium network, nature's underground internet, and subquantum kinetics, a visionary theory by Dr. Paul LaViolette that redefines the very foundation of reality. Together we ask, could fungal intelligence mirror the reactive ether? Can living systems like mycelium communicate across time-space using longitudinal waves? And is consciousness itself a waveform braided through bionetworks and subquantum flows alike? This isn't just a conversation about mushrooms or physics. It's about recognizing the invisible patterns that connect it all. So pour a cup of herbal tea, ground yourself, and prepare to see the forest, the fungi, and the field in a whole new light. Let's dive into the mycelial mind and the ether within.
Hi, everyone. Amber is back, and we have a lot of questions here. So I'm just going to get started. I'm going to just jump right in with you. So this is, I've already introed and everything, but I've got questions about the mycelium and the subquantum symphony is what I call it, which is how they're connected, how the mycelium and subquantum kinetics are connected. So the first question that I'm asking is, what does Paul LaViolette say about subquantum ether or plenum? And how might this relate to the mycelial network's decentralized intelligence and signal distribution?
Okay, so I'll give a quote that actually comes directly from Paul's Subquantum Kinetics book. And it's his book, page 228. However, I will preface this with, this is the newest edition that has not been published yet. But it will become available soon, hopefully soon. And in his book, he says, Subquantum Kinetics predicts that the cosmic web derives its structure as a result of variations in the matter creation fertility of the ether, galaxy clusters being regions where the ether is relatively supercritical, and voids being regions where the ether is relatively subcritical. And the cosmic web is almost identical to the brain's neuronal network, as well as the mycelial network. Now, that last sentence that I just said, that is my kind of introduction into that. Those are my words. He didn't say that, I did.
Right.
So like if you picked up a picture, and you can probably post it in your edit to this, if you looked up a picture of the neuronal network or neural network of a person's brain, and you compared it to the cosmic web and the mycelial network, and then you looked at all three of those pictures together,
Yes.
they look almost identical.
Yes. And that is really cool. And you sent me those pictures, so I will post that. But yeah, I think it's mind-boggling because a lot of people have never really made that connection before. But it's all of these things are sort of now starting to come to light. You know, people are starting to see things, that see the connections literally between things.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting. So the second, I put my glasses back on. Second question is, can the diffusion wave process in SQK be compared to the way nutrients and information travel through mycorrhizal networks in the soil? I know I'm saying that wrong.
That's okay. Okay, so I picked up this quote from an actual research paper from online. And I'll go ahead and read the quote from this research paper. First, we examined whether mycorrhizal fungi formed trade networks in a consistent, repeatable manner over time. We determined the network architecture of R. irregularis A5, tracking the full network graph over time. The exact topology varied among replicates, but when we computed radially averaged spatial densities of growing tips and hyphal filaments, we identified a simple and reproducible pattern. When plotted against the distance r from the barrier crossing point, which is referenced as figure E2b, the hyphal filament density profile was plateau-shaped, with a flat region toward the center where R approaches 0, and a sloping decay to 0 toward the periphery where R approaches infinity. By contrast, the density profile of growing tips had a peaked shape and was positioned within the decay zone of hyphal density. Also, again, referencing figure 2b at the bottom. Notably, the density of both hyphal filaments and growing tips had spatial profiles that were nearly invariant across time. Again, referencing figure 2b, this time on the left, and temporal profiles that were invariant across space, this time on the right of figure 2b. Translational symmetries indicative of a wave advancing in space. And this is referencing the paper called A Traveling Wave Strategy for Plant Fungal Trade. So if you wanted to look up that paper, that's the title of the paper.
I'll see if I can find it, then I can put it in the description.
Right. Okay. So now I'm referencing Paul LaViolette's SQK. And this is what Paul says. The dissipative structure that characterizes the brucelator's visible order, which we will call its explicit order, emerges from a pre-existing implicit order, the functional or relational order that is present in the organizational makeup of its reaction system. Figure 4 in chapter 1, for example, maps out the brucelator's implicit order to spontaneously develop ordered wave patterns. A reaction system must have at least 2 mutually coupled reaction intermediates, X and Y, forming a looping process, and at least one nonlinear reaction step, the autocatalytic step that converts X into Y. The reciprocal variation of X and Y concentrations in the dissipative space structure, explicit order, has its roots in basic concepts, the XY reaction loop implicit order, where more X is necessarily created at the expense of reducing the amount of Y and vice versa, through the interplay of order, creating reaction processes and order destroying diffusion processes. The observed XY wave pattern comes into being. The chemical wave patterns spawned by Bulasov-Zabotinsky reaction in chapter 1, figure 3, are other examples of dissipative structures. Prigogine et al. Have noted that the spontaneous emergence of these ordered structures does not violate the second law of thermodynamics, although their emergence involves a decrease in entropy. These patterns are created at the expense of a much larger increase in entropy as a result of energy being dissipated to drive the underlying reaction processes. Subquantum kinetics proposes a particular ether reaction model as its generator of physical form. And that is Subquantum Kinetics, page 47 to 48. And again, I also show pictures, and that this is like the comparison of, well, it's not really a comparison. It's the pictures are showing, which you can probably show in your edit. It's showing the reaction diffusion waves that you see in chemical reactions. That's the top picture. And then the other picture is like, it's like a diagram. It's showing the reaction diffusion of the, and he has like several different, because he was referencing the X and Y ions of the ether. But in the diagram, you have several other ones. Like you have A etherons, B etherons, and then you have X etherons and Y etherons. But he specifically just was referencing the X and Y etherons. But in that diagram, it shows all of them because there are several. And so all of that to say that in both cases, in both the mycorrhizal networks and in SQK, there is a reaction diffusion wave that is being produced.
Wow.
In both of those processes.
Cool. That is really cool. So I'll have the thumbnails to actually show people so that they can understand, the visuals of it, and it'll make it clear for them. And in question 3, it says in SQK, how do standing wave nodes form? Could this be likened to how mushrooms fruit from invisible underground threads?
So, I must digress. I actually had to do research on mycelium and the underground mushroom network because I didn't know what that was before, but now I do. Because my specialty is in physics and in SQK, subquantum kinetics.
Right.
But in both SQK or subquantum kinetics and mycelium, this chemical reaction diffusion procession is what's causing the waves as described in detail in my answer in number 2. So basically what's happening in both cases is that you're having this reaction where the chemicals in both cases, like I guess like in SQK it would be the etherons, and in mycelium it would be the biochemicals and the mushrooms, I guess is what you would call them, like those biochemicals. So in both of those cases, when they're reacting with each other and they're diffusing, and the diffusing means that they're just moving from a place of, I guess, high concentration to low concentration. And so when you're having that, both the reaction and diffusion of both cases, SQK and the mycelium, that is what's kind of producing that chemical wave.
Right. That's so interesting how they both connect like that. Okay, and then in number 4, LaViolette speaks of ether as reactive and memory bearing. Could the Earth's mycelium be tapping into or echoing this subquantum memory structure?
I would say absolutely. As Paul likes to quote, as above, so below. In this case, the process of chemical waves produced by mycelium is the visible macro process that we can't yet detect in the subquantum level because it is so small, we don't have devices sensitive enough to detect it yet. We could also see this in the neuronal or the neural network of our brains, the cosmic web, and the mycelium network pictures from question 1.
Right.
So definitely yes.
That is so cool. Okay, and then number 5, are there hints in Paul LaViolette's model that consciousness, or at least coherent pattern recognition, arises from feedback systems, like how trees and fungi co-regulate ecosystems.
Yes, he definitely alludes to this, as we have seen from the cosmic web and neuronal network references. The pattern repeats in multiple layers, and as you like to say, as we all like to say, fractals of
Yes,
the universe.
I love fractals.
Yes, and in which case this suggests that consciousness and therefore intelligent design is, you can start from, the top and looking at it from I guess, the bird's eye view of the universe, starting from way above and
Right.
seeing all of the galaxies and the galactic clusters and stuff like that. And you can zoom in, and to see the mycelium networks, and then you zoom in even further and you can see the subquantum kinetics networks.
Mm, that's so cool. That's like the macrocosm and the microcosm.
Yes.
But when I was a kid in school, like little, I'm going to say like 8 years old, they showed us this video, and I wasn't in public school. So this, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but it was where they actually showed a video, and it was very realistic of you just being on Earth as a person. And then it zooms out into the universe, and it goes way, way past all the stars and the planets into galaxies and all the other galaxies. And then it's just really go really far out, and then it pulls you back in, and then you're back in yourself again, and then it goes inside of your body, and it shows you everything that's in there and how it looks just like all of the stuff that you just saw. And I just always stuck with me, like just imprinted in my brain from the time I was 8 years old. I find little tiny things to be just as fascinating as really, far away things, because they're the same. And that's the
Yep.
fractality. And so thank God that I saw that, because it made it real for me, So
Yeah, definitely.
if I could ever find that video, I would show it to people. It's awesome. Okay, so where are we at? We're at 5. Are there hints in Paul's model that consciousness, oh, I already did that. Sorry. 6. How might the mycelial web act as an interface or tuning fork for subquantum fluctuations, almost like a biosensor for cosmic intention?
I love this example because, and you might be able to find this. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the video, but I once saw this really cool video of a girl who strikes a tuning fork and places it in the water at the beach. So she's standing in the water at the beach,
I've seen that.
um,
Yeah.
and she strikes this tuning forks, and she sticks the tuning fork into the water. And the resonating tuning fork caused waves in the ocean water. This
Mm,
is a perfect illustration of how the mycelium network might cause waves within the etheric ocean.
wow. I should try to recreate that. I mean, I'm going to the beach after this.
Oh
Just bring
yeah,
my tuning fork with
definitely.
me.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't really think about that, but there is definitely a connection. That is really, that's awesome. Um, okay, so now we're at 7. Is there any indication that SQK SQK that biological system? Oh wait, I just did that. Why am I not paying attention? 8.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm at
This is
8.
right. Actually, I thought we were, yeah, we're at 7.
We're still at 7. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is there any indication that in SQK that biological systems such as fungi might amplify or modulate etheric flow, functioning as localized organizers of reality?
So in his research, Paul frequently spoke about how we should treat physics as an open system rather than a closed system.
Mm,
So he would absolutely find a deep connection between biological systems and the etherons in subquantum kinetics, as described in subquantum kinetics. So everything is made up of etherons.
mm,
So So that's how those connections are made. Like I have etherons in my body. My cats,
Right.
they have etherons in their body.
Right.
So that's how the
Mushrooms have
SQ
etherons in their bodies.
right. So
Right.
that's how they're all connected through SQK and biological system.
Now, does it have to be so anything with matter, in other words,
Yes.
anything made of matter is connected to the ether?
Yes.
Super cool. All right. Um, Given that subquantum fluctuations are seen as the basis for matter formation, could psilocybin containing mushrooms allow for temporary harmonization with these fluctuations?
From what I have learned so far, everything goes through cycles. Even if the cycles of each individual system might not be exactly in the same temporal location, so like in location and time,
Time. Right. I got you.
and duration, so like the length of
Mm,
time that's going
right.
through. Um, but every once in a while, those cycles will overlap and therefore will meet one another and resonate. Some cycles have longer periods while others have shorter periods. So they will definitely eventually overlap. So there will be those times when they meet.
I just saw a visual in my mind of concentric rings that
Hmm.
in the water and how they
Hmm.
overlap, and then they create those vesica Pisces.
Yep,
You
and
know,
they'll create those interference patterns. Yep.
yes, I just saw
Yes.
that in my head as you were talking. So that's I feel that. Yes. Okay, so this is 9.
Yes.
Paula Violette proposes that mass and charge are emergent from reaction diffusion patterns. Could this explain the intelligent behavior of mycelium despite its lack of a brain? I find that very interesting because, yes, it doesn't have a brain. Do we need to have a brain in order for this to occur?
I think it's much deeper than that. I think what we are witnessing are intelligent thoughts. I definitely believe what we are seeing is sentience at some level. And just
Yeah.
because it's not like, like in the case of mycelium, it still acts like intelligence. It because like during the research that I was doing for this discussion, um they were sending out signals, and they were sending out signals talking to other mycelium and other mushroom and other plants and things like that. So since there are like signals being sent out and there's a form of communication that is being produced, I mean, that right there is just a sign that there is sentience there, that
Right.
there's thought.
Right.
And I think in the case of subquantum kinetics as well, the same is true because I think a perfect example would be how the etherons form. Like they would start out as one particle, and they would start, and because they're forming the individual particles, then they start to, for the lack of a better word, reproduce.
Mm,
And they start reproducing and they start becoming the larger particles, like the actual, like that we know of, that we've heard of and we've seen, the electrons and the protons and neutrons and things like that. And then they
right.
start building out from there. So then they start forming into the chemicals like hydrogen and helium. I mean, that right there is just like, okay, there's an intelligence there. There's like,
Right.
okay, I'm starting small. I'm starting at one little particle, like one etheron, and building out from there.
Right. It's not even just intelligence, it's communication.
Yes.
To me, it's more than just intelligence. It's like you can be intelligent but not be able to communicate, and not be able to, like, you have to have a receptor too, as well as something sending a signal. You have something that's receiving that signal, understanding it, comprehending it, and then being able to do something as a result. To me, that's more than just intelligence. That's, you know, reciprocity. I'm not sure if I'm saying that word, but they're reciprocating. You know,
Yeah.
it's like um the word that I'm thinking, symbiosis. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
symbiotic.
There's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah.
Right. So that's, to me, that's very clear that it happens not just in the mycelial network, but also in subquantum kinetics, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
that's incredible. Um, the last question, not to make that, we're trying not to make this too long for everyone, but at the same time, it's really, I find it's very interesting and very exciting to make these kind of connections, you know, and to understand them. So I don't want to rush things too much, but the last question is, do you think Paul's view of continuous creation could support the idea that mycelium, like the universe, is not evolving in space-time, but with it, weaving consciousness into the fabric of existence?
And I would say yes, 100%. What I have learned from Paul's research and how he has discovered new explanations for physical processes that other physicists have ignored or tried to explain away as something else can only be explained by intelligent design and the relationship between creation and the creator.
Nice. I love that. Very well said. So I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on again, and you explaining all of this to us very well. I think the images will also help, hopefully. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll come back and take a look at them and try to answer them as best we can. And again, like, Amber, do you want to tell anybody about what's going on with SQK, and um, what do you see for the future with SQK becoming more um, understood and more out there, put out there and into the public?
Well, I would say that the the subquantum kinetics research being done by the Starburst Foundation is ongoing. And I would like to add that even though it's ongoing, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are the only ones who are contributing to the research. It can be, and it has been done by other physicists and other scientists. And they may not call it subquantum kinetics. They might give it
Mm,
another name. They may
mm,
give it, a different term.
mm.
But when you actually look at the concepts and you compare the concepts between subquantum kinetics and maybe this other scientist's research,
Right.
they're basically the same. Like they're basically saying the exact same thing.
There's a lot
So
of parallels. Yeah.
so it's just a matter of um finding those other scientists, finding their research, and comparing the two. And I'd like to say that there is there is a glimmer of hope in the
Mm,
future for this to become, I guess, more welcome into
yeah.
into the science community and in academia. There's definitely hope.
I think so too, and I'm really looking forward to that. Um, I'm looking forward to new textbooks being written and things taking shape and form from what we're even discussing in this, very verbal way, to make it more tangible, more into the physical world, so that people could see what the results of all of this is, what it actually means in a practical way for humanity, for the world, for the earth. So I'm really excited about that. I always look forward. I like to envision the future and see like a bright future, something to look forward to. And, like we're in the field of potentials right now, this is where all the potentials lie. And we're like trying to put it out there to make it happen. So again, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing all of this information with us. And we will be back, right, with more.
Definitely.
Yes. And thank you also to Marianne, Paul's wife,
Yes,
for
yes,
allowing us to even share some of the book that's going to be coming out. So
yes. And
much
I
respect.
would like in honor of Paul LaViolette and his widow, Mariana, I would like to dedicate this research in this video to Paul LaViolette and his research in subquantum kinetics.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And yes, much respect, the utmost respect to Paul and to his wife, Mariana. So thank you for allowing this. And we will be back, and we'll see you again next time. Ciao for now, everyone.